Introducing Fresh Start Snowboarding, 180's and beyond! Yes, hello, I'm Kurt Kallina here with your second Fresh Start Snowboarding's installment of 180's and beyond, the freestyle version. The first offering was a novice edition that included the graph paper progressions concept. Basically this time, I'm still have a progression, but I'm using what I describe as the demonstrator. It's a little board we're going to use, a little tool to see the tracks in the snow. You should be able to enjoy how you can explore getting into new freestyle tricks in 180's in a comfortable way. Basically the idea with this one is that you're trying to get a feel for not really catching air, you're just making little skids across the hill, getting a feel for how you could ride forward and backwards and turning it back uphill. Then you're figuring out little ways to nose roll it and butter it, and then you're going to build up to how to really make these little 180 cut hops across hill and see that this is the way for you to explore, a comfortable, safe way for you to build up in your ability with your snowboarding to find out how to conquer this aspect of the sport. That we're going to just try to give you guys a touch of advice about some teaching ideas, like some things you haven't actually realized about, different ways to link a turn. Maybe if you had some pointers for a friend, you would want to help them out a little bit, or God forbid you try to help teach your girlfriend or something. So maybe not such a good idea, but this time what I'm doing a little different is I'm going to use this demonstrator here, this little board that I devised, and we'll see how that goes. But it shows the tracks. The tracks will tell the truth about what you're doing with skidding and carving, so we'll see that in a minute. But maybe first let's get a couple realities of the hill. Right here, let's first observe something with this protractor idea I have about how I'm gonna make maybe a match to the fall line. Like if here's downhill at 90 degrees of the hill, this is the 0 degree of the hill of what I would call home base in some cases. If I'm skidding against it and tried to stop at the red, that's what the red represents. In other cases, I could be moving through that true traverse at the 0 degree, and that's why there could be a green arrow across. Now sometimes I'm slowing with the yellow, and then the green represents that 45 angle, the diagonal, the half size of the hill, the reference line of how I can find carving, how I could also set up to link a turn. Some really great things about that half size of the hill. The fall line, where the ball rolls downhill, in some cases that fall line can be changing to go more right or go to more left, and in those cases you usually end up doing more of a garland turn. And what a garland is whenever I make more than one turn off the same edge. Maybe I do a couple more heel sides or a couple more toe sides, because the fall line kind of dominates what ends up happening to you with your board. Okay, so that's just a little reality of the hill a little bit. Here we are with the board. If we're at the home base, how could I be skidding down the hill against it? How am I going to edge up to stop? Okay, or I could be moving the direction of the board through the true traverse, right? If I set up for it with a little momentum across the hill, what does the fall line look like? The flat board sliding downhill, it doesn't have a track much because you're just like a sled in that case. Then we got establishing what the 45 angles are here and here, whether it's toe or heel, depending on the lead foot, basically. Okay, so now let's just imagine if you were trying to link a turn and you're on the high heel side like this, you might have to skid a lot and wait until you found the fall line before you could carry over to the other edge. Now that's a patience turn, and a patience turn isn't necessarily wrong. It just works good on mild terrain, maybe not so good for once that terrain is steepening up a lot. The terrain may dominate your needs. Rather steep, be a lot across the hill, starts to flatten out, keep the board much more in the hill. This is where that edge catch can sneak up on you, that dreaded edge catch. Try to stay more downhill in the flats. Okay, now here's the other thing, is the second way to link turns may be something out of a skid. A way to practice it is how to do little skidded garlands where you pitch it to the hill and pitch it back, play that little pedal game with opposites out of your feet, and feel how the skidding and finding, using and losing the hill, okay? But eventually you'll get a feel for how I could skid and then rebound the skid to carry over to the other edge. How do I make a platform off the skid to then go to another edge? Okay, now the third one would be maybe our most ideal in some cases, especially with steeper terrain, is how I could create a turn and get it finished across hill in the true traverse. Then I can carry over I establish direction of the board. I'm good for carrying over and steering towards the new edge early and using skidding through the steepness of the hill. That's the beauty of it. Then I can carry into carving again. Skidding where I need it in the steepness, carving where I wanted a cross hill. In other cases, I could do this, where I could be skidding, using it, finishing, but then finding that I could carry over to where the 45 angle is. And that usually sets you up for a new edge early. Sometimes you don't want to spend too much time off that running edge of the angle of 45. It's rather steep. You'll get a lot of speed quick, so you don't want to spend too much time there. We're finding out that if I draw the line and if I start to tip the board a little more, see how that side cut engages and does something to create an arc for you. So that's the part of how you could learn to carve, is like, where is the 45? I found it. Now I start to gradually tip and tilt the board and then dive into more of an arc in the swing of the turn. Then eventually you can try that carve from the steepness of the fall line with a nice big long running arc and really get better at carving, usually through flatter terrain and get a feel for carving, okay? So 3 ways to link a turn. Either you find the fall line, you're rebounding a skid, or you create direction of the board. So anyway, that's just sort of our first little precursor to giving you a little ideas of a little extra instruction there. And then we're gonna break into the next thing, which would be the progression for all the 180s. So let's look at that next. Okay, so we're gonna break you into the progression now. Basically, the first one is about the sweep turns, about just doing simple stuff, skidded across the hill forward to backwards or backwards to forwards. Okay, so the idea would be I could take it downhill, I can run a little bit of a clean running edge, then I'm just gonna arc it away and bring it back uphill and let it skid around and then drop it back sort of downhill again, and then bring it back across hill to just have it end. We're putting down some cool tracks because the tracks tell the truth. That's the truth. And here I am doing it on the slope. Now what would that be like if I then in turn did it switch the toe side edge? Sort of the same concept, running with a cleaner edge. You can see nice fast, clean line. You start to bring it uphill, it brings it to a natural speed. You get a feeling of when that board can kind of flatten out and run over to the next edge and then finish. Basically it's a sweep turn or backup turn or a W turn. Real simple, okay? But now we're going to break into step 2, which is rather simple as well. The whole idea now, basically starting maybe at the 45 to the hill again, the half size of the hill, draw a line in the diagonal, get it going, bring it back uphill again, but then in this case you're doing a nosy or a butter or leaning your weight and trying to let the tail of the board just kind of flop over. So now, how would that look if I were then trying it out of the switch? If I was the lefty, I'm doing the same thing, drawing the line, skidding it around a little bit, maybe then leaning that weight to my back side of the board and then dropping over again. Okay, before you try step 3, which is the 180 hop cut turns, you might want to try a little bit of ollie action because you just want to get a feel for it. You want to do something maybe in a static way. Basically the 4-step plan to it quick is you could just slide the board through from fore aft. I'm the righty, so imagine this the lefty if you were the lefty. I'm just going to slide the board through fore aft, then I'm going to roll to the tail, step 2 in it. Step 3 is then how it can roll through and then try to snap chair to air. Maybe you can work on adding a little bit of a spin to that. A little bit, but at least you're getting the idea. Obviously those spins could be done the other way. And then maybe then eventually you're going to try it where you're sliding downhill, or once you're maybe doing it off an edge, hopping it across hill. So this little ollie technique is definitely something to try to add to the game. So now let's maybe go to step 3. Step 3 is how we're going to load up and try to do 180s and try to run and carve a big sort of arc. So I'm looking to kind of go for it a little more with the speed and the arc, get down there nice and low. The approach, the takeoff, the springboard it, the apex, the landing. Okay, so that would be basically a front side for the lefty again. Now, let's see what it might look like. Here we're going, running it, switch again, making a nice long running arc, and loading it up and hop, 180, and we're good to go. So now we're gonna give you a bit of a mild feature just to give you an idea of maybe how you could make a cut, a 180, sort of up onto a touch of a platform with this little catwalk road. So this might be a real easy feature, but it might give you a little idea of how a feature might come into play. And here again, we're doing it off little hits in the park.
Probably the main thing I put down on the line is just how to do a frontside 180 and a blindside 180, and you put the two together and that's a frontside 360. And then do a 540 after that, just to show you the potential. But
in my idea with this concept is about how to get to a frontside 360, and that is the frontside 180, the blindside behind you, backside switch to forward 180, then you can get to frontside 360s and beyond. So hopefully this is giving you a little bit more insight about how maybe you could get there. Are you gonna take the ride or are you gonna make the ride? You're gonna try to balance or you're gonna create the balance? Because you gotta pick a time and pick a line.
probably the front side will be easier for a while because you have a chance to just see it and it's open there. And then when you can get to committing some of those blindside ones, they really work great. But the beauty is you're landing back to forward again. So just kind of the pro and con of whether you're doing a front side to switch or a switch, backside to forward again. And so they both have something maybe easy and hard about them. But once you pull both those 180s off, then what do you got? You got the bag of the tricks for the next progression in it to get the 360. So
lose the hill or lose the hill.
I think the progression is so logical, but somebody does to highlight it and bring light of it, and so once they try this progression, I'm sure they'll be convinced too it's probably the best way to go about trying to learn some of these new style tricks and stuff.
Okay, now one other thing as far as a bonus feature that might be kind of nice to know is that if you were getting a feel for just the basic sweep turns, there's something else that can happen maybe in more big mountain riding, works rather well on steep terrain. I've been utilizing the strength of the toe side in a lot of ways, in that the toe side is a little bit more carver friendly. You really have that extra knee and pedal move into it. The heel side's a bit about power and skidder friendly, so they both have maybe a pro and a con to them. So let's take a look at maybe what the toe side could lead you to. Let's say I were trying to drive a pretty good carve with the toe side again and down and arcing back uphill almost again, and then I could skid it around, and then the beauty is that at some point I can drive back into toe side forward. This is like a lefty doing a toe side switch back into forward toe side, and then suddenly he's jamming back across the hill the other way with his toe side edge. So it's a toe to toe turn. There's a lot of real beauty in how I can find a way to skid up and across hill and then back downhill in it and carve again. Now certainly I'm still going to use a lot of heel side turns, but it's just kind of something that needs to play with about how your toe side edge has got a lot of versatility, a lot more finesse, a lot more controls as far as when it comes to the carve routine.
How we redefine what a cab trick is, that it's a half cab if it's open 180 from just going your switch position and doing a front side 180 style open, that's cab. That'd probably be half cab, and then a full 360 would be a full cabarella probably, and then
getting nice and low and loaded, and then once again hopping up, trying to land it across hill, and nice. The takeoff, the springboard it, the apex, the landing. Okay, low, hopping it up and springboarding it over. Here we find just a very mild little feature where the board width is running in time, and we found a way to kind of catch a little air off a little mild jump across hill. But then maybe you're switching forward once again, depends. What is the deal with this weather in this video? Huh? It just doesn't want to happen.
No, we're not filming today, see? So
Well, I'll tell you what, so far I haven't been able to win with the weather. I'm trying to do a freestyle video and it's puking snow and snowing a foot on us. We were blasting a foot of powder this morning. Just insane, man. It was a great day. So I'm getting a little frustrated, needless to say, but we'll have to wait for another day maybe.
He's got a face shot, he's choking.
hey, thank you for watching.
I just appreciate the fact that you've been able to take a look at this and hopefully see some insight in it, and maybe it's something good for you. So see you next time. See you out there, hopefully. Doing bigger and better and more beyond things.
But it's a really logical progression, and it's easy, and it makes sense how you go from doing, sweep turns to nose roll turns to hop 180s to figure out how you do it all across the hill to, gradually evolve your riding in an easy way to learn the 180s before you drive down a fall line, or whatever. We pick a feature across the hill and use that.